Matt Schaff and Jared Smola of DraftSharks.com here. And if you're like us, then you're mixing some best ball 4 entries into your best ball drafting right now on Underdog Fantasy. If you haven't jumped in yet, then what you can do is get some free money to jump into those best ball mania 4 drafts. You can do that by using promo code DraftSharks. When you deposit, you can get a full deposit match up to $100. That is 4 free entries into best ball mania 4, Jared. It sounds like something to go after to me.
Why not? Free money.
Exactly. So what we're going to do right here is talk about 4 players that we expect to move up in ADP over these next few weeks as we start getting camp reports, as we start getting preseason games. Now, the point of trying to draft somebody before his ADP rises is you're getting him at a better value point than later drafters will be taking that player at. So, Jared, why don't you hit us with your first player that you think is going to take a move up?
Yeah, I think Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers might be about to climb in ADP. We've talked a lot about the Ravens passing game. You can check out our coaching changes video if you want to, learn a bit more about the Ravens passing game, but it's definitely something we're in on. We want pieces of this Ravens passing game. Trying to figure out, how the wide receiver core is going to shake out has been the question, but so far it's not been much good news for Rashad Bateman. He didn't even show up for the start of Ravens training camp. He missed the first day or two. When he did show up, he was placed on the PUP list after missing most of the spring after getting a cortisone shot in his surgically repaired foot. Bateman's missed 16 games over his first 2 NFL seasons. So definitely my level of concern for Rashad Bateman is climbing. I'm kind of out on Odell Beckham for the most part. He's 31. He turns 31 in November. He's played 21 games over the last 3 seasons. And even look at his production. Like, he's been just okay since 2018. It's been a long time since he's been elite. So yeah, I think Zay Flowers might be the guy we want from this wide receiver core. And again, even if Rashad Bateman just remains sidelined and, Flowers makes a few, highlight real worthy plays in training camp or preseason, I think you're going to see his ADP climb pretty quickly.
He very well could climb. He could wind up being the guy we want here. What I love about this group is that I think it's probably going to get spread around. I don't think there's going to be one the guy. I think there's going to be value to all of them. And like you said, we've talked about how much we like this Ravens offense. So I just like buying pieces. And all 3 of these wideouts that you talked about are in the mid 40s or lower in ADP. So, I mean, even if you're like, nah, Zay Flowers is a rookie, I don't believe. I think you can still get pieces of the other 2 guys. I'm not out on Odell Beckham like Jared is, especially because he's the cheapest of the 3, but I am also in on Zay Flowers. I like buying pieces of this receiving core in this offense. I'm going to go with the running back that I know that Jared won't agree with, and that's Tank Bigsby from the Jacksonville Jaguars. His ADP has already risen some, but he's still just RB 45, sitting in the middle of round 12, in between Jaylen Warren and Tyler Algier. And that's kind of the first selling point for me, is that Warren and Algier are really more handcuff players. I know that they'll get touches even when the starters are healthy for the Steelers and the Falcons, but I don't think Warren and Algier are going to be the kind of guys that really contribute a lot when the starters are healthy for those teams. I think Tank Bigsby is likely to have a bigger role for the Jaguars from the start of the season, or at least quickly into the season. We've already heard Doug Peterson say he doesn't want Travis Etienne to be a workhorse. He wants to use multiple backs. We saw him not throw the ball a ton to Travis Etienne. I know that Doug Peterson's not throwing the ball as Trevor Lawrence, but after James Robinson left, we actually saw the target share go down for Travis Etienne. So that's one particular area that Tank Bigsby could pick up early. They drafted him in round 3. He had a tremendous career at Auburn, a workhorse for 3 years for the Tigers. So I think at least we're looking at a decent role for Bigsby in an offense that we love. And obviously, at best for his production, a Travis Etienne injury could turn him into a big workload guy. So I think you're buying at fairly low risk with plenty of upside. And just to put a little bit more context into where Bigsby is right now, he's around behind Jerick McKinnon. He's around behind Elijah Mitchell. I think those guys are a little bit closer to what he looks like to me, what I expect from Tank Bigsby heading into the season. And he's about 2 rounds behind Khalil Herbert, Devon Achane, and Damian Harris. Another 3 guys who look like they are in backfield committees. So I just think that's more like where Tank Bigsby belongs. And I expect that once we get into camp and we get more positive reports, we already got some spring buzz. I won't be surprised at all if his ADP climbs into the 30s.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Bigsby as you are, but I do think he's a solid pick at current ADP. And I do agree that he could be a riser over the next month. So I'm definitely on board with getting some shares of Tank Bigsby right now. Maybe not as many as you, but I'm definitely trying to get some.
That's all I ask. And if you want to know more about how we would draft our best ball teams, how we do draft our best ball teams, head to draftsharks.com. Check out the best ball strategy article inside the DSU section. That's Draft Sharks University. Lots of strategy stuff in that area for if you want to learn how to play and not just who to pick in your drafts. Jared, who's the third player whose ADP is about to rise?
I think Isiah Pacheco's underdog ADP is going to rise over the next month. I'm a little surprised it hasn't already. Now, all we heard about Pacheco this offseason was his recovery from 2 surgeries that he had right after the Super Bowl on his labrum and his hand. There were a few reports and quotes, I think even one from Andy Reid, kind of saying he wasn't quite sure when Pacheco was even going to be back on the field. So I think that's what has kept Pacheco's ADP down, but he avoided the PUP list to start training camp. He is still sporting a non-contact jersey as of now, as of late July. But multiple Chiefs beat reporters have said that Pacheco looks 100%. They haven't noticed him, looking limited at all. So if that kind of continues over the next month, we maybe see Pacheco get a few reps in preseason games. I think he could climb by a round or 2 in ADP. This guy was RB 18 from week 10 on last season when he sort of took over as the Chiefs' lead ball carrier. He's still going to lose passing down work to Jerick McKinnon, but there's obviously plenty of value to early down and goal line work in this Chiefs offense. So RB 27 right now for Isiah Pacheco. I could see that climbing by like 4 or 5 spots. So I'm definitely getting some Pacheco in drafts right now.
So you're saying the Chiefs might score some touchdowns this year?
They might. Yep.
I'm going to close it out with as exciting a player as you can imagine, and that is Carolina Panthers tight end Hayden Hurst, still just tight end 25 in underdog ADP. And obviously I say that in jest about being exciting because the primary issue with Hayden Hurst and the reason that people aren't drafting him any higher is because he's boring. I agree. You're not going to get an argument from me about whether he's boring, but who else is boring is Dalton Schultz. Who else was boring? It was Jason Witten. Now, Hayden Hurst is not Jason Witten. Hayden Hurst could be Dalton Schultz in the situation he's in this year. He could be this year's Evan Engram. Evan Engram, the thing to like about him last year was not that you had to love the player, but he was going so late that there was really no downside to taking a shot, that he was going to pay off in this new situation, which is what he did for us. Hayden Hurst finished among the top 20 last year with the Bengals, is now in an even better spot to get targets. He is currently trailing Tyler Conklin, Mike Gesicki, Dawson Knox, Jawan Johnson in ADP. He's 40 ADP spots behind Irv Smith. The only reason that people are drafting Irv Smith is because Hayden Hurst showed them what kind of fantasy points the Bengals tight end can score last year. People are drafting Irv Smith actually a few spots ahead of where Hayden Hurst finished in fantasy points per game last year for some reason. And yet at the same time, Hayden Hurst, who has moved on to a team with not a whole lot going on at wide receiver, in a much better spot for targets, and to a team that's paying him $7 million per year, people are like, I don't want somebody who's guaranteed targets with the number 1 overall rookie quarterback. So, Jared, I guess the final piece is you wonder if he's in for an ADP rise, what's going to do it? Right. I think that there is the shot that we get into camp. We start getting reports like, oh, Bryce Young's best friend is Hayden Hurst. He's finding him all the time. He's always open over the middle, that kind of stuff. And then people are like, you know what? Wait a second. Why am I bothering taking Jawan Johnson when I can take Hayden Hurst late in my drafts?
Yes, I'm totally with you that Hurst is an excellent. I think he's the best late round tight end value on Underdog right now. I'm not necessarily expecting his ADP to climb because, like, if it hasn't yet, like, what's Hurst? Hurst is not the guy who's going to be all over your Twitter timeline making these, spectacular catches in training camp. So I don't know. I hope his ADP doesn't climb because I like getting him where he's going.
Yeah, I hope he ends up not fitting in this show because people continue to leave him for me on the draft board. I'm going to get to the end of August with like 70% Hayden Hurst because there's even if he gets hurt, even if he goes down, I'm losing my third tight end. It's ridiculous. I guess what I'm doing is giving people too much credit, figuring out that they're going to realize at some point that there's free money on the table.
Yeah, we're gonna need like Mike Clay from ESPN or something to really pimp Hurst before he gets an ADP rise. So
please don't. If you like the picks here, or if you don't like them, subscribe, rate, review, tell us what we got wrong, tell us what we got right, stick around and see what we're going to say next, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. We love to hear from you, and we appreciate having you along.